Recently, I got a craving to play through a retro stealth game. I was deciding between whether I would replay Splinter Cell or play through Thief 3 or Thief Deadly Shadows. Obviously, with this review, you know which game won out. The thing is, I used to love stealth games, but somewhere along the line, AAA companies realized that they didn't sell as well as third-person shooters. Because that's right. This game, where 90% of the gameplay is in pitch darkness, was a AAA game back in the day. Unfortunately, the Thief franchise is pretty much dead at this point. Square ended up acquiring the rights. They made Thief 2014, which was good, but it wasn't great. So before we get started, I'd say that if you do ever want to play this game, you have to play it with mods. There is going to end up being a community patch and the Minimalist mod, which is how I ended up playing the game. I'm kind of a stickler when it comes to mods that change the game too much, but this is all quality of life stuff. Like, for example, one level in this game might normally be broken off into different sections with loading screens, but the mod removes all of those loading screens. But okay, let's get into the game. It's called Thief after all, so obviously your entire goal is to steal as much loot as possible while completing your mainline objectives in each of the levels. Depending on your difficulty, with the vanilla settings, higher difficulty means you have better AI to deal with, which means they're more perceptive to you and react to you better. But it comes at a cost of having to gather a ridiculously high amount of treasure per map before you can even leave. So unfortunately, I opted into playing this game on easy because frankly speaking, I just wanted to get through it as quick as possible and just enjoy it. I didn't feel like getting frustrated trying to find one piece of treasure I overlooked in a chest. Gameplay itself is, it's kind of weird because this whole game was designed around having first and third person as an option. And so there's a lot of jankiness that you gotta get used to with the character movement. So what I mean by that is if you're in third person and you start strafing to the left, your character model has to turn into that position before it starts strafing. Aside from that, your character often will get caught in the environment. A lot of times you'll actually start floating in midair, and that just means you have to load a save file. Or if you're by a ledge, you could fall off of it to kind of reset your character's animation. But the good thing is that this being an old school game means you are allowed to manual save anytime that you want. It does mean that there was a lot of save scumming, or at least I did a lot of save scumming, just constantly saving and loading until things went my way, which did take a little bit away from the appeal of utilizing a lot of my different gear. But when I play these types of games, I tend to hoard all of my items for like the final boss, and then I get to the final boss and I still just keep my items. Like, oops, I didn't realize I was beating the game, bro. But okay, let's talk about the structure. So you're obviously going to end up going through a tutorial level. After that, you're kind of thrown into this massive city with a whole bunch of different sections you can explore. And as you progress through the main missions, you're going to have more and more of the city to explore. So essentially, when you're in the hub area, you gotta go to a location to start the next level. And then after that level's done, you'll get spit back into the hub. The cool thing is that the town kind of evolves over time to meet the story deadlines. It's nothing like the guards upgrading per se. It's more so that more enemies will start showing up. By the end of the game, it's just chaos because all of these different factions are going to be fighting each other in the streets. The graphics are actually really good for the time and still kind of hold up today. It is a lot of stonework, which I've heard some people complain about, but I love castles and stuff, so no complaints from me. I think the main reason people might complain about that is because a lot of the levels can kind of blend into each other rather than being something drastically different. But I personally found that there was enough variance between castles and caves and stuff that it stayed interesting. One of my favorite levels is this giant mansion where you have so many different ways you can enter it and so many different pathways you can take to explore it. All the while, darkness is your friend, but if lightning strikes, it might reveal you. The story is actually really good as well. I think so anyways. It kind of creeps up on you. It starts out slow and confusing at first, but as all of the pieces start coming together, it does make a lot more sense and ends up being more interesting than most games nowadays. And even though it's really old and definitely has some bugs, especially without the mods, I can still easily recommend this game, and I'm personally gonna give it a 4 out of 5 because I absolutely enjoyed my playthrough of this game. Maybe it's just the fact that I crave a stealth game and we just don't get those anymore, but my nostalgia goggles are not blinding me to the gem that this game still is. Lastly, I did want to dedicate a section of this review to talking about the Shalebridge Cradle. This area legitimately is the reason that I never beat this game until recently. I would almost always get to this part and just get so freaked out that I just couldn't handle it. It has so much atmosphere and is horrifying without a single jump scare. You gotta understand that up to this point, pretty much everything is really tame in this game. And you know, you're kind of just dealing with guards. You do have some monsters here and there, but nothing ethereal to deal with. But suddenly you're thrown into this insane asylum where you're facing invincible monsters. There's a lot I could go into to describe just how horrifying this area is, but I'd rather you experience it for yourself because I don't think I could do justice in a video.